How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another Pokemon video. In today's video, I am going to count down my favorite shinies and worst shinies of each generation. So that means I will be going through all 9 generations and rating my favorite shinies and the worst shinies of each region. But guys, before we get into it, make sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe if you have not, and join the Discord to stay updated with everything on my channels. But with that out of the way, guys, let's get into it. Now, going through some of the Pokemon to pick which one was the worst and the best, I had to make some of them a tie. Because some were just so cool, I just couldn't put one above the other. Or some were just really bad that I couldn't decide which was worse. So in this list, we may see a tie for best and worst. But again, it is my list. So if you guys disagree with me, let me know in the comments down below. Now starting off, we start in Kanto, the beloved first region everyone respects. Now there were some really cool shinies in this region and some not so much. But to start us off with the best shiny of Generation 1 has to go to Charizard. Just look at this guy. Now going from his counterpart orange color, this shiny Charizard is decked out in a slick black color. Making him already cooler than he is, this is probably a no-brainer when it came to the best Generation 1 shiny. Even though there are a lot of great other shinies in Kanto, this Charizard stands out as being the best. Shiny Charizard may actually be everyone's first choice when you ask them what is the best shiny ever. Now Charizard will always be the GOAT, and with this shiny it gives him even more status. Now to talk about the worst shiny in Generation 1. Now even though I did say there were a lot of great shinies in Kanto, there are also a lot of bad shinies. And the one I chose for my pick had to be shiny Zapdos. Now sadly, Zapdos did not get the best treatment out of the birds nor out of the other legendaries. Even Dragonite got a better shiny than this guy. Now Articuno and Moltres almost get the same treatment, but it's done at least a little bit better. Articuno becomes a lighter shade of blue, and Moltres becomes more of a pinkish reddish tone, which is much different from its counterpart. Yet sadly, Zapdos could have been a lot better. It only becomes a darker shade of yellow, not having a big difference in its color. For as cool as these birds are, Zapdos got the short end of the stick with this one. Now we go on to Generation 2, the sequel to Kanto. Now going to the list, there are a lot of bright, shiny colors when it comes to these shinies. But when picking for Johto, I had to go with 2 shinies. Obviously, we have the gorgeous looking shiny Umbreon. Then I also picked shiny Ho-Oh. Now obviously, shiny Umbreon is everyone's choice for the best Johto starter, and sometimes even the best shiny ever. Going from its black and gold trimming, then in its shiny form becoming a black and bright blue trim is just breathtaking to look at. This shiny goes down as probably one of the best shinies ever. It just looks 10 times cooler, and every time I get a shiny Eevee, he is the #1 choice for me to evolve into. Ho-Oh has one of the coolest shinies in this region. Going from its red and gold color and becoming a silver/gold dark maroon color, it looks so cool. Part of me just always wants to hunt a shiny Ho-Oh because of how cool it looks. Ho-Oh is already a great Pokemon to look at even without its shiny, and adding this tone of color just makes it 10 times cooler. Now to pick the worst one out of this generation actually took me some time, because I was pretty indecisive which one I wanted to pick. So in the end, I had to pick these 2 Pokemon, shiny Typhlosion and shiny Togetic. These 2 have to be the worst of the worst of this generation. To start off, Typhlosion should have been a lot cooler. It's one of the cooler looking starter Pokemon of Generation 2 and got one of the worst shinies. Even Meganium got a better shiny than him. Nobody likes Meganium. Typhlosion sadly got left in the dirt with this shiny, as it doesn't even stand out. It's the same with Togetic, going from a white eggshell color to like more of a darker, dirtier eggshell color. Now they could have done a lot better with Typhlosion shiny, maybe even making the fire purple or something to make it stand out. Maybe you could have just reversed the color of the triangle that's on its body and making him blue and the triangle's white. There we go, Pokemon. Take my ideas, use them, make better shinies. Now we move on to Generation 3, one of my personal favorite regions. Now obviously I'm always going to be biased and pick Shiny Swampert as it is the logo to my channel. But putting that guy aside, I had to pick 2 shinies for the best ones of this region. My 2 choices were Shiny Rayquaza and Shiny Metagross. Just look at these 2 guys. You cannot tell me you would not put one of these 2 as the top shinies in this region. Yes, Shiny Latios, Latias, even Groudon and Kyogre have amazing shinies. But these 2 just stand out as just the coolest things you will ever see. Now Rayquaza and Metagross are already cool to begin with, but when you put a dark black color on Rayquaza, it just makes them look even more menacing. Now going from its light blue color and swapping it for a cool looking white and gold trimming, it looks absolutely amazing. This is a Pokemon I always want to hunt for and would always want it on my team. Shiny Metagross and Shiny Rayquaza are always going to be at the top of my list as the coolest shinies ever. Now going for the worst shiny in Generation 3. You guys probably already know what I am going to pick. But this time around, again, I have 2 worst I could not decide from. The top 2 I picked were Regice and Shedinja. See, I don't get how Regirock and Registeel got better looking shinies than Regice. Now just like Zapdos, Regice got the short end of the stick when it came to a cool looking shiny. Same with Shedinja. At least Nincada and Ninjask got at least a little bit cooler shinies, but Shedinja doesn't even look different at all. Just getting a lighter shade of brown, this is a very forgettable shiny. And if you're shiny hunting Regice and you're not even paying attention to the screen and this shiny comes up, you probably wouldn't even know it's a shiny. Like, that's how bad it is. I don't know what Pokemon were thinking. They could at least give it a different looking color and not just a darker shade of blue. Now Generation 4 was a very tough choice to pick my best and worst shinies. Now I did end up picking 2 best shinies and 2 worst shinies because it was very hard to decide which one was better than the other or worse than the other. So starting with my 2 best shinies, I chose Drifblim and Giratina. Now I already love Drifblim's design and love him as a Pokemon in itself. But looking at this shiny just makes it 10 times cooler. Going from a dark purple with yellow trim and then becoming a gold Pokemon with light blue color on its fingertips, still with the white cloud. Now same goes with Giratina, already having a cool original design, then once you see its shiny form, it just becomes 10 times cooler. Going from a silver and red color, going into a beige and light blue trim, it looks absolutely amazing. This is the thing you would see if you go into hell. This is the first thing that would terrify me if I saw this standing in front of me at the gates. Now these 2 Pokemon already had cool designs and their shinies just made them 10 times better. Now going to the worst shinies in Generation 4 was again not an easy one to pick just one. Obviously I could go with the route of Electivire, or even Magmortar, or even Togekiss. But in the end, I had to pick Garchomp and Drapion. From already having 2 amazing designs when it came to Pokemon, I do not know how they did not think of anything else when it came to designing their shiny counterpart. Garchomp is probably a lot of people's favorite pseudo-legendary, but it is let down by its shiny counterpart. It could have at least got the same treatment as Metagross with a completely different color, but sadly it didn't. Same goes with Drapion. I always feel Drapion is a super underrated Pokemon that most people forget about. Now when you see it shiny, you can barely tell the difference with it. I don't even get why Scorpio got a better one than Drapion. He could have maybe been a blue or something to at least make it stand out a bit more. Sadly, Garchomp and Drapion again got the short end of the stick. Now going into Gen 5, Unova. Surprisingly, there are a lot of cool looking shinies in this region. But my top 2 picks for best looking shinies had to go to Haxorus and Gigalith. They knocked these ones out of the park. Haxorus turning into almost a Charizard looking dragon, and Gigalith getting an amazing blue trim on the stones on its back. Now there are a lot of great shiny looking Pokemon in this region, but Haxorus and Gigalith just stand out from being the coolest of the cool in this bunch. Haxorus, like I said before, going from its yellow body trim to a dark and a menacing color. It almost resembles Charizard's shiny back in Generation 1. Then when you look at Gigalith with its dark red rocks in its original form, becoming a light blue color and just standing out. These 2 shinies are absolutely amazing, and these are the first ones I'm going to shiny hunt in this region. Now, when it came to choosing the worst shinies of Generation 5, this is actually a 3-way tie. Now, at first, I was going to pick the Forces of Nature, Thundurus, Landorus, and Tornadus. Now, even though their shinies are absolutely horrendous, there are even worse than that. And that has to go to the Monkey Brothers, Simisage, Simisear, and Simipour. They are already terrible Pokemon to begin with and could have been saved with their shiny form, but sadly they are not. Simipour is at least a darker shade of blue, but doesn't really help it much standing out to be a cooler looking Pokemon and not a Pokemon I would want to shiny hunt in the run. Same goes with Simisear and Simisage. They are not even considered one of the coolest Pokemon anyway, and their shinies do not help them. They barely change color, and they're very forgettable Pokemon as well as their shiny form. These Pokemon are pretty much one of the biggest mistakes Pokemon have ever made. Now going into Generation 6, that's when Mega Pokemon became a thing. Now I'm not going to choose any Mega Pokemon, but I have to say, all of them look absolutely amazing in shiny form. I mean, look at Primal Kyogre, Primal Groudon, and Primal Rayquaza in shiny form. Even Mega Garchomp finally got a cool looking shiny. With the Megas aside, I had to choose these 2 Pokemon being the best ones in Generation 6. Obviously, you have a shiny Greninja, and then another one I really like is shiny Aegislash. Now, I don't think I would have many doubters when it comes to picking shiny Greninja, but I absolutely love shiny Aegislash's design. Going from a bright yellow and purple trim to a dark and looks like almost has blood at the end of its sword. Now Greninja, what else more can I say? It just looks absolutely insane. Going from a dark blue color to a dark black with white spots. This is a shiny Pokemon I know everyone wants on their team. Now it wasn't easy even choosing the worst one of this generation, but in the end, I had to choose Hoopa and Hoopa Unbound. I am not a big fan of the gold color of their shiny. Hoopa's original design had so much potential to have a cool looking shiny, but for me, they fumbled the bag on this one. Now, even though Volcanion does have a bright gold shiny, it at least saves it having the purple fingernails, and the blue just helps it pop out a little bit more compared to Hoopa. Nothing really stands out with Hoopa and Hoopa Unbound shiny. It's just gold. There's nothing special about it. It could have been a lot cooler, but sadly, it's not. Now guys, before we move on to Generation 7, make sure guys to like this video down below. It is free and it would help the channel out a lot. I try to push out the best content possible, and let me know what you want me to do in the future. Now with Generation 7, I already know which shiny I liked as a #1 pick. And that was the Ultra Beast, a shiny Guzzlord. This shiny is so cool. Now Guzzlord is sometimes maybe a forgettable Pokemon, but its shiny is so awesome. Now going from its dark black body and becoming this bright white monster, it looks absolutely cool. And for me, it's one of the coolest shinies in Generation 7. This is actually the Ultra Beast I want the most, and I would love to always shiny hunt it. Now, as the worst shiny, I actually picked two. First one being Marshadow, and the second one being Komomo. I mean, if I put Marshadow shiny right beside its counterpart, you could barely tell the difference. I really don't understand why they couldn't think of anything cooler to put for this awesome looking Pokemon, but sadly it just fell short. Same with Komomo. I mean, it's already no one's favorite pseudo legendary, and then just adding this ugly color, I don't know what they were thinking. This bright pink and bright yellow, I just does not mix well, and I don't know what they were thinking putting these two colors together on a Pokemon. These two shinies are very forgettable, and I know nobody ever wants to shiny hunt them. Generation 8. This is when Legends of Arceus came out on the Nintendo Switch, and there are some pretty cool Pokemon in this region. Not only that, but we got Pokemon Sword and Shield. And overall, there are some pretty cool shinies in Generation 8. But the two Pokemon I had to pick was Hisuian Zoroark and Obstagoon. I don't think I would have any doubters choosing these two shiny Pokemon because they are just amazing. I'm so lucky I actually found a Galarian Linoone shiny in my Sword and Shield run, because Obstagoon was the shiny Pokemon I really wanted. Obstagoon's shiny is completely different from its counterpart version. Its regular version is a darker form, it kind of looks like a skunk. Then when it becomes shiny, it kind of reminds me of those popsicles you buy at the convenience store. It just stands out and looks so cool. Then Hisuian Zoroark was already a cool looking Pokemon. Then when you throw in its dark purple shiny form, you just can't go wrong with that. I think this was a Pokemon everyone wanted shiny and just hunted like crazy when Legends of Arceus came out. Hisuian Zoroark and Obstagoon have to be the top of the top tier when it comes to the Gen 8 shinies. Now let's look at the worst ones of Generation 8. Now, it honestly was not a hard choice to pick the worst one, but I had to pick these two shiny Pokemon. I had to pick all three versions of Calyrex. His regular version, his Ice Rider version, and his Shadow Rider version. They all suck. Glastier was a possibility, but then I saw these three forms and I'm like, no, this guy takes the cake. You barely see a difference from its original form and nothing even stands out. Spectrier at least gets a different form, which I don't know why they didn't use on its Shadow Rider version. The Shadow Rider version could have at least kept the Spectrier shiny and just mixed them into one big Pokemon. But sadly, they almost didn't even change a thing when it came to its shiny form. Nothing even stands out with this Pokemon, and I don't know what they were thinking, but it's not one I would want to go shiny hunting for. Now let's move on to the last and final generation, Generation 9. Now there are some pretty cool Pokemon in this generation, and some I've actually shiny hunted myself. If you guys have watched this channel, I have done a lot of shiny hunts live, and we have caught some really cool Pokemon. But the number one Pokemon I put as the best shiny has to go to Shiny Cloth. This guy looks so cool in his bright blue form. Going from its dark sandy color to just becoming bright blue and white looks so cool, and I know everyone probably shiny hunted this when the game first came out. Now I was also deciding on putting Reverum on this list, but Cloth just stands out from honestly everybody in Generation 9. This is one of the cooler looking shinies and a lot different from its counterpart. But to pick the worst one, I had to give it a four-way tie. It was no comparison, and honestly, I don't know what Pokemon were thinking when you have these Pokemon and just decide to go this route. First up, we have Amarouge and Kreluge. Why? Being one of the coolest Pokemon you have made in some time, you give him one of the ugliest shiny forms you could ever see. You could barely tell the difference. Why? At least maybe swap the colors. That would have been a cool idea. But no, you just changed the eye color. Like, why, Pokemon? Why? Kreluge and Amarouge have to be the coolest Pokemon without shiny form in this region. But when you put their shiny form compared to others, they fall bottom of the list. And that goes the same with Tandemaus and Mousehold. There's honestly no difference between a white and darker white. These two shinies absolutely fall short, and I don't know what Pokemon were thinking. The mouse could have been a completely different color, but no, let's just shade it a different color of white. Sometimes I feel like I should be in the drawing room when it comes to shiny Pokemon because I can come up with a lot more ideas than they did. But guys, let me know what you thought about my list of the best and worst shinies. Let me know, do you agree with any of them, and what would you change if you were in my position? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow me in my Discord to stay updated with everything going on. Thank you guys so much, and I hope to see you guys in the next Pokemon video.